Good morning. Hello, hello. I tell you what, get your coffee. I got mine, your hot chocolate, whatever you want, and sit down and rest a little while and visit with Grandma. I was telling James this morning, when I was a little girl, I used to get my brothers and my sister, and in the summertime, set them out on the lawn with, they would sit on the ground or wherever. They were like little Indians because we raised kind of wild out on the farm. And I would get out there and I would put on a play and I would do all the parts. And I just had fun. And I told him, I said, honey, I was on stage when I was like 12, 13, 14, and I would just put on a play for them because we would do plays at school, but I would put on a play for them. And I was on stage. And I never thought of it. Honestly, never thought. When I went on YouTube, I'm on stage. Can you believe that? I mean, it just didn't get through my brain that I'm on stage. So here I am on stage, a grown-up old woman, having fun. So anyhow, I opened up my little iPad and I said, what would be a good verse for today? And Matthew 14:27 is one that Hannity quotes part of it when he goes off the air. Quite often he says, don't let your hearts be troubled, because he goes to prepare a place for us if you read that whole chapter. Jesus said, the Lord said, peace I leave with you. My peace I give you. I do not give you as the world gives. Do not let your hearts be troubled, and do not be afraid. I went to see my friend Joyce, who is in rehab, and she's a year older than me, and we've been friends since I was 14 and she was 15. So I went to visit with her, and there she sits in a chair. She broke both ankles. She said she was standing up. Well, what happened was she had to walk. When she was walking, she had a walker. So she had her walker, and she got up and she had a hold of her walker. And she said, I don't know what happened. I really don't know what happened. She said, but when I woke up, evidently I had fallen. And I was laying in the floor, and both of my feet was backwards behind me. My ankles were broken. Both of them were broken, and my feet were pointing the wrong direction. And she said, I met God because he was there. I felt his presence. Something lifted me up. And I don't know what happened. She said it was so strange, but it was like I was out or something. And when I looked again, my feet were up straight in front of me again. And she says, and of course, she's got a grandson that lives in with her at nights and stuff and takes care of her. And she has one of those alert things that calls for help. But she said she got to hollering, and he sleeps there. So he woke up and he came, but her feet was up straight now. And so he called and got an ambulance, and they took her to the hospital. And they did some surgery, and they had to put some pins in and set those ankles. So when I saw her, she's sitting in her chair up at the rehab center. And so we just had a good visit. We talked about old times, and she told me how God was there. She said it was one of the most wonderful experiences to feel the presence of God right there. And I said, honey, that was probably your guardian angel, because I believe we all have guardian angels, and I know my guardian angels has intervened for me more than once. And I remember one time when I was driving out to my mother-in-law's, and I had my mom and the kids in the back seat. And it was a country road, a small country road, but it was asphalt. And as I was driving, there was this big truck behind me that was like it was a big gravel truck, like it was going to run over me. I didn't know what to do. I got to put metal to the pedal or whatever. But quickly, there was a place to pull off, and I pulled off. And that big old truck pulled up beside me, and like 900, it was stopped dead. Dead. It couldn't go no further. And it wasn't that, it was behind me on the road. He stopped it. He said, I don't know what happened. He said, but this truck stopped like 5, because I was saying, Jesus, Jesus, you know, I call on the Lord. He said, I don't know what happened. My truck quit running. It wouldn't go. Our guardian angels. I told Mom, I says, I thought we was going to get killed if it's going to run over us, you know. And I'll never forget it. He said, I don't know what. So he got back in his truck. It started, and he went on down the road. My guardian angels have been around me a long time. I remember another time I was down in Louisiana, and we was riding around with the pastor, and he was doing the driving. And Buddy and I was in the back seat, and somebody was in the front seat with him. And we was going somewhere. And that pastor would look around in the back seat and drive, talking to Buddy. And half the time, he was like he's going to run off the road. I got so upset and nervous. He's going to kill us all because he's not watching where he's going. And I started praying quietly. You know, the Lord hears you whether you pray out loud or not. And so I was saying, oh, God, do something. This man's going to kill us. He's not paying attention to what he's doing. And you know what? This really happened. That car stopped like 900. He said, I don't know what happened. My car ain't running. There was the filling station right there. So he just pulled over into the filling station. He couldn't get it started again. Thank you, Jesus. He could not get it started again. He said, well, I'm going to have to call my wife or somebody to come get us. And he did. And they didn't drive like that to scare me to death. My guardian angel just stopped that car dead. It wouldn't run anymore. It's amazing. I think a lot of things happen and people don't notice. But I'm getting back to my friend Joyce. So Joyce and I sat there, and she watches me on Facebook because she don't know how to run YouTube and don't have YouTube. So she watched me on Facebook, and I've tried to remember to put these on Facebook, which is under Clarine, C-L-A-R-I-N-E, Rice. And so if you don't want to watch it here, and I'm also on X. So I just run it everywhere. And I had somebody tell me, did you know you're all over the internet? I have a stage, which you know what, I always wanted a stage. But what I used to do with my little iPad years ago was film bluegrass stuff and stuff like that. They were on stage singing, and it was good. Buddy and James, I get them. They are so sweet, both of them. I was married to the most wonderful man for 44 years, and I told James yesterday, no, it was this morning, just call me something else because I am an old grandma, but James has this joke he wants me to tell y'all, but it's so dumb and so corny. I told him, I said, honey, I've heard you tell that joke so many times, and every time you tell it, it gets corny. He says, well, I have a new turn on it now. He said, but if you're not going to listen to it, I ain't going to tell it. I said, okay, don't. I said, because yesterday, I told a little joke that I had read on Facebook about this woman said, you heard it yesterday, said, me and my dog was out walking, and this woman was in the yard, and she had her cat there, and she was talking to her cat. She said, I took my dog on home, and I told him all about it, and we both just died laughing. She told her dog, I don't think I told this one right either. Oh, well, look at it. I read it yesterday, but his is about it. Do you know, he says something like this. I don't know if I can remember it or not. Do you know how to make an egg roll? And people say, no, I've never made an egg roll. He says, well, you just take the egg and with a spoon and you can just roll it. I think that's the way it goes. I'll have to check on that later. It's so corny. But Buddy used to tell corny jokes like that all the time, and I just never did care for corny jokes. I like jokes that I can understand. It just don't appeal to me. But I've heard it. I said I've heard you tell that more than once to people. Do you make egg roll? Or you know how to make egg? Do you know how to make an egg roll? Maybe y'all catch on to it. It's just too dumb for words for me, almost. All right, now where was I? I don't know. I get distracted. Oh yeah, on stage. So I did bluegrass on my little mini iPad. And it was fun. And and another thing I used to do was I would make up stories and tell them. Now, I don't make up stories now. I tell real life things that happened to me. But I used to, see, I read a lot of Tom Sawyer and all that kind of stuff, and getting lost in treasure caves. We saw movies back down in Virginia when Daddy had some money to take us to the movies. The only movies we saw when we moved to the country, to the farm, was in town, which was 3 miles away, on Tuesday night. You come and you sit on the lawn, bring your blanket, and Daddy would load all us kids in the back of the truck. That's the only way he could get us to town. There were so many of us. Those that could go, the little ones couldn't go. So me and Norman and Phyllis and maybe Tommy would take us to Fredericksburg, let us sit on the ground and watch The Lone Ranger, and Tonto, and all that, black and white. Old black and white movies. Now you get them on Air TV, and James likes them. And I tell him, I don't want to see those again. I watched them when I was 12 years old, down Fredericksburg. Those old black and white movies, Cowboys and Indians, they're really old. But he likes them, and they're still on TV. You can still get them on YouTube and on Grit and some of those Air TV stations. We don't have cable, but we do have Samsung TV, and you can get, which I like, you can get storms and rain and thunder and fireplaces and stuff like that. I like to put on rain, and you can put that right on your TV now and read while you listen to the rain. When I was on the evangelistic field, which is traveling from church to church, because me and number one husband, he was a preacher and a singer, and he sang, and people loved to hear him sing. He was a country singer before he got saved. And then when he got saved and accepted the Lord, I mean, he was 48 years old and I was 46. And we left home. We built us a little apartment in the rear of our home, and we finally got us a fifth wheel. We started out in a motorhome that we had, and it was like living in jail. I did not like that little motorhome to have to live in full time. So I found out that most evangelists that travel full time and want to be real comfortable, they get them a fifth wheel. So we looked around and found us a fifth wheel, 35 foot, reasonable. And then we bought us a pickup truck. So wherever we went, we had home. But he would sing, and people loved his singing, and he would preach and sing, and I ran the sound. So anyway, we had a lot of fun doing that. But now you can get those old movies, you can get old-timey music and all that stuff right on your TV. But so when I was out there, they did not have all that stuff. So I had tape recorders. I had 2 tape recorders. And so if we was parked and a thunderstorm came up, you know what I did? I would put my tape recorder out there and tape that thunderstorm on my little cassette player. And then I could sit in the camper and in the fifth wheel and listen to my thunderstorm whenever I wanted to. And do you know they came out later with CDs with thunderstorms, rain and thunderstorms, birds singing? Oh yes, and I did. If we was in the morning, I would put my cassette player out and I would tape the birds singing, and I would play that later and enjoy it. Now you can do it right at home. I can do it right here sitting in my living room. James fixed up this living room for me. This is the apartment we built when we went on the evangelistic field in the back of our house. We had the front, our daughter and her husband and 2 little girls lived in the front house, the 3-bedroom with a bath and a half. They lived there, and we built this little apartment in the rear for $10,000. We borrowed the money, and the payments were pretty reasonable. Though you know what interest rates was back then? 13%. Well, she paid rent, and that took care of the $10,000 payment for it. And so we put in air conditioning and a furnace and a bathroom and everything back here. And I want to tell you something really strange. Another thing, the way that God looks out for. When I moved here, I had my Sunday school class, and the pastor's wife come, and we dedicated this address where I live to the Lord. We had a meeting, and we just had a good time, and I just dedicated this place to the Lord, all of it. The apartment wasn't here then, but so when we went on the evangelistic field, we had a little apartment added in the back, a 1-bedroom with a kitchen and a bath and a washroom. And it was handy to have when we was home off the evangelistic field, because you need a place to go to. You don't want to live in that fifth wheel year round, and our daughter lived in the front. So that was back in 1980 that we did that. Now you know how many years that's been if you're good at math. I'm not. I was never good at math. And I just laugh because I'm not. My brothers are very good at math. I did not get it. So anyhow, 1980 to now. So my furnace, I had to call somebody to come light my furnace recently, and it got pretty cold here this winter. So I called him to come light the furnace, and he did. And he looked at it. He was a young man, didn't look very old. He said, "They don't make them like this one anymore." He said, "How old is this one?" I said, "Well, I don't know. It seemed like I had it worked on one time before. Maybe they put a grate or something in it. I don't know what. It's the one that was here when we built the apartment." And he looked at it, and he says, "Well, I can't read this too good, but it says 1984. I said, "No, we didn't put no furnace in here in 1984. We put it in 1980. He said, "Well, maybe that's what it is." And after he left, I remembered for sure. We didn't ever put another one in, not 4 years later, 1980. And also the air conditioning. And we did work on that furnace, like I say, one time, and he had to light it for me, because the guy that usually lights the furnace, if it goes out, couldn't make it, and the weather was cold, and he couldn't make it. So I had to hire it done. It ran me $80, but it was worth it. So thank you, Jesus. That's just the way I am. Some people are not Sunday school teachers and all that kind of stuff, but it's just always the way I've been, thanking the Lord for his blessings. So our air conditioning, he put it on the roof. And the man that built this apartment went to our church, had moved here from Maine with our new pastor, Brother Woody Drost, bought his family, and he was in construction. So he built this for us for $10,000. And it was wonderful, because we had a place to be when we was home. And we parked our 45-foot fifth wheel. Finally, we got a 45-foot long one, because Pat Day, the jockey, gave us one, because he had it built 2 inches. He ordered all the cabinets to be built 2 inches lower. And you know what they did at the factory that built it? They made all the cabinets 2 inches higher, and he's not even tall as I am. Pat Day is not. So he had it for sale, and I had Tom Stinnett, the guy that we knew where we got our fifth wheels worked on, told me about it. And I said, "What's that beautiful camper doing there for sale?" He told me that Pat Day had it built and didn't want it because, they built it all wrong, so he's going to sell it. I said, "Well, reckon he'd want to give that to a ministry." We were tax exempt. He said, "I'll ask him." And Pat had only been a Christian about 3 or 4 months. And you know what he said? Yes. So we used that one 5 years and wore it out, pulling it on the road. And it had central vacuum, a washer and dryer built in. Look what God does. I mean, it really happened. So anyhow, the air conditioning on top of this, right here where I'm sitting, right in there, it's never been worked on. It's never had any Freon added. 1980 to now. Could that be about 40 years? I guess y'all can tell me. I don't know. I'll get me a pen and paper. I could ask my phone, it would tell me. Or I could get a pencil and paper. But it's been many years. And also, the carpeting that was in the bedroom, James says, this carpeting's been here a long time. He said, it's time for you to change it. And I said, well, yes, it has. That's what I put down in 1980 when we had the apartment built. He said, well, you know, because, see, it's kind of on a hill. And he said, you know good and well, and I know good and well because I had one of those vacuums that could suck the water, and the water would come on in when we had a big rain, and it'd come right on through the laundry room into my bedroom. And so I would take that sucker, you know, that vacuum sucker, and I would suck all the water out of the carpet and dump it and just let it dry. He said, and you know that's rotten underneath there. I said, I guess, yeah, maybe it is, you know. He said, well, I'm changing that carpet out. He could not believe it, and I couldn't hardly either. But it had a mat underneath it, you know, so thick. It was really nice carpet. Excuse me, my nose itches. I'm like Granny Pat, chit-chat with Granny Pat. She had to itch hers today. That's just what happens, and I got tickled at her because she was showing some jewelry and stuff, which was interesting, that they had made. Her and Jan used to make jewelry, necklaces and bracelets, and she couldn't find the bracelet. And I thought to myself, you know, I can sit right here, and I can have my remotes right in front of me. And somehow or other, I don't know what, I lay it down here over the side, that away, the other way, or I put it on the arm of the chair, and it falls on the floor, and I can't find it. And I say to myself, that's got to be around here somewhere. It don't walk. I'm sitting in the chair. Where did that remote go? Well, she went on down into her video, and she found that bracelet. Oh, honey, I just sympathized with her because I do that kind of stuff all the time. And then I can't find, see, I got 2 remotes, and I got remotes everywhere. And then it happens, where did my hairbrush go? Here's my hairbrush, and I want to fix my hair, my wig a little, because, see, this is like a mirror. When you look in this, I'm on stage, and I can just fix my hair every how I want to. That's why I like wigs. You can just give it a shake, put it on. I hope that girl that was looking for wigs found her one that she was happy with. I never did hear from her anymore about that. They're not real cheap. They will run you. I've got another one ordered, and it's supposed to be here at the end of the month. They were all on back order. They're supposed to send me an email whenever they're going to mail it. So I'm waiting. It's still this color, though. I like this color. And I tell you what, see this phone? I've been doing some videos, little ones with this. And you know what it does? It shows my wrinkles too much. I like my iPad. It flatters me. You can't see my wrinkles that good. And I do have them, but they're not too bad. That's life. We just do the best we can with what we got. And that's what I've been doing for many years. Just doing the best I can with what I got with the help of the Lord. Because the Lord helps me. And these things I told you this morning about our guardian angel really helped us. And I could think of more because there's been so many. And, you know, when I couldn't have twins and God gave me twins, I didn't dream I'd have twins because I couldn't even get, they said, you will never have any eggs because your other ovary is too bad. It's got too many cysts on it and stuff. But with all God is possible, you never know what the Lord can do unless you ask. And because you ask not, you have not. So we always ask because it's possible you could have. Or maybe you ask amiss, the Bible says. You have not because you ask not. So it don't hurt to ask. And I'm pretty bold about that. I'm pretty bold about a lot of things. Lord, help me to not be so blunt. But it's like I told Joyce when I first met her, my good friend that I went to visit yesterday. I said, Joyce, and I was 14 years old, and I realized that I didn't keep friends very long because even at 14, I was too outgoing. They got tired of me. I hope y'all don't get tired of me. But if you do, that's life. And that's what I say about a lot of things. That's life. You can't force somebody to love you. You can't force them to like you. If they like you, they like you. If they don't, they don't. I have met people that I didn't like that well. But honestly, I love them, their souls, but I don't want to be around them. Through my lifetime, I have met people like that. And people have met me that didn't want to be around me. If you just love them and leave them, is what I say. And don't worry about it. Leave them in God's hands. I know that I have had many friends that I have really enjoyed when we was moving around. When I was out in California, when he was in the Navy, when Buddy was in the Navy and I had to move, I made some really good girlfriends that we did stay friends for, the time that we was there. But you know where they are now? I don't know. I had this one that I loved so much, and all of a sudden, she divorced her husband and married a lieutenant when her husband was just a seaman. And that was when Kathy and Karen was born. And I didn't get to see her because I was so busy taking care of the twins. And when I saw her about a month later, in that month, and she never gave me a hint that she was unhappy in her marriage. But I guess she had been seeing this other guy. I don't know what happened. She said, well, I have a new husband. I said, you do? She said, yes, I divorced. What's his name? And here she had one child already, and now she's got a new baby because her baby was due the same time the twins. And she had a little boy. And she says, I married a lieutenant. And so she did. And she says, and we're getting stationed elsewhere. So she was gone, but you know what? I enjoyed her so much while she lasted. And I have decided in life, enjoy it while it lasts. Because the Bible says, this too shall pass. And it's true. We all pass too also. So let's enjoy life while it lasts. Enjoy whatever we're enjoying while it lasts. And you know what I'm going to do today? I'm going to attempt to make eggnog for James. Eggnog, you only have it during the holiday season, Christmas and New Year's. And then it's out of the stores and gone. So he just loves it. And he likes to put it in his coffee. He likes to just put a little eggnog in his coffee. Well, he's on his last little bit that I bought. I put some in the freezer. I bought it at Walmart. Came in big half-gallon containers, and it was delicious. So I looked up the recipe, and I found a really easy recipe. I bought some ginger, and I've got a real vanilla to put in it. And so I found one that is simple and easy, and I'm going to attempt to make it for him. We'll see how it turns out. So God bless you. Walk that path where Jesus would be pleased with you, and watch those guardian angels come around you as you serve the Lord and you need some help. They really are there. God bless you. Bye-bye.